Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Rose's Randoms, and today we are going to be reviewing / going over what has happened in chapters 55 through 70 in The Woman in Coach D by Sarah A. Denzil. So let's get right on into it. Okay, so at this point, what's going through Jenny's mind is that she figures that Susie had orchestrated their meeting on the train where she pretended not to know her, and she has been toying with her for weeks on end. Crazy, right? It dawns on her also that Susie has faked her own death. Now, what's going on in the warehouse is that Susie has come out with another woman, and that other woman, her name is Ashley. Now, Ashley has not been initiated into the cult as yet, but she is about to. And standing on the stage is a man who Susie begins to throw all of these atrocities at. She claims that this man has committed a bunch of atrocities against this woman, Ashley. We later find out that this man was Ashley's uncle who did a load of horrible stuff to her. And so Ashley's initiation essentially is to beat this man to a pulp. And Ashley does carry this out. Ashley feels good about it. Susie clearly feels great about it. The crowd, / cult feel great about it. And even Jenny kind of finds herself feeling good about it too. So then you start to wonder, like, is she getting engrossed in this? Is she about to like join this cult, even though she claims that she's just there to figure out what's going on? So fast forward, she goes home without ever getting a chance to speak to Susie, by the way, because Susie kind of just disappears. Granted, I kind of figured that would happen. I did not think that at this point she would get to speak with Susie anyways. However, Jenny is surprised that they even let her go home, given what she just witnessed, which I also thought was a little bit off, because it's like, why would you let this lady go home? Do you really think that you're that secure in your cult that nothing is gonna happen? She also notes that now, every time that she gets on the train, she doesn't expect to see Susie anymore. Neither does she even look for Susie. However, she has noticed a slight change with Harry, and that is that Harry has started to notice her a little bit. Like one day she comes here and there's something with her hair or what she's wearing, and Harry says something about that, and she kind of takes a little bit of joy in that, even though she knows that Harry has a girlfriend, Hannah. She then speaks to Liam, who calls her on the phone. Liam is the detective, if you don't remember. And he's angry with her for, going to this cult and going to their meetings and stuff because it could be dangerous. But Jenny convinces him that, oh, I am just there undercover. And sometime later, we see Jenny reminiscing on a time where Susie apparently fainted after drawing blood. And it soon dawns on Jenny that Susie had been lying back then about not having cancer, because her cancer did go into remission, but about possibly the cancer coming back just for attention. And the reason that she even assumes that this was a lie is because she feels as though Susie going missing would have drawn so much more attention if Susie really did have cancer when she disappeared. I guess because she thinks it would have been like a headline like, oh, woman or young girl who has cancer has disappeared, which, I mean, they could have still made the storyline that it's like, oh, woman whose cancer went into remission has disappeared, or just a girl disappearing in general. So I don't really know why that makes her think that Susie was lying, but that's what it is. And she also realizes that because of this, Susie is very manipulative and powerful, and that is translating into the cult that she is running, where people are using manipulation and drugs to essentially make their members or the people who join their cult feel happier. And we do see from previous chapters in the book that Susie was indeed manipulative. Like I did mention that Susie did come off as manipulative, and even Jenny herself kind of recalls this through the letters and even her own narration throughout the story. Fast forward, she goes back and she finally gets to meet and talk with Susie. Susie claims that she misses her, but obviously Jenny is very upset with her. She does miss her, but she's very upset with her because she's like, why would you have me go through all of this, right? And then you're alive. There's so much that Jenny went through throughout her life, being accused, her father being in prison, even like Susie's own mother. And there's so much that went on. And Susie just up and ran away without even possibly a thought of any of that, or seemingly no care in the world about what her loved ones have gone through or what she put them through due to her disappearance. And so obviously, like any other normal person, Jenny is highly upset about this. Susie follows this up with saying that, oh, well, let's go back on a trip to the cave where everything happened. And essentially she tells Jenny that when they're there, she will gradually remind her and tell her what in fact did happen that night, because clearly there's a lot of stuff that's being left out. Jenny asks Susie about the diary, and Susie claims that Jenny is the one that gave her the diary for safekeeping because Jenny didn't want her parents to find the diary. And then she says that she sent pieces of Jenny's diary to Jenny because she thought that would be a way to reconnect with her and help Jenny connect the dots of what happened and to remember her. But you could have just reached out to her. So all of that mystery really makes no sense. And this also reminds us about the manipulative aspects of who Susie really is. At least that's what I was thinking while I was reading this. But when they get back to the cave, Susie does indeed admit that she was lying about the cancer coming back. And she claims that she needed to start over. Thus she lied, and thus she ran away. But there's gotta be more to this story, right? She then mentions a boy named Max, who Jenny had dated. And she says that Max was there that night. Now, up until this point, all we knew is that it was Jenny and Susie who jumped off of this precipice, and then Jenny hit her head, and when she woke up, Susie was gone. But now, Susie is saying that Max was there. A boy that Jenny dated was there. So who is this Max? Jenny states that, oh yeah, you didn't like Max. And Susie responds and says, well, you and Max argued quite a bit, actually. So we see that, okay, there might have been this hate towards Max because Jenny and Max argued a lot. So now Jenny is thinking, maybe you did something to Max that night, because what has happened to Max? Where is Max? So we are taken back to that night by way of Jenny's diary. And Jenny is driving in the car. Previously, Susie did tell her that, oh, you were the one driving. And Jenny is driving in the car to this cave where they are planning to do this dare and jump off of this precipice. And at some point while they're talking, it tells us that, the narration tells us that Jenny looked back and looked at Max. So that makes the reader assume Jenny was driving, Susie was possibly sitting next to Jenny in the passenger seat, and Max was sitting in the back of the car. We are told that throughout this, they show some back and forth where, like, Susie is speaking to Jenny and telling Jenny that, oh, like, Max just wants to do this because we're doing it. She has nothing of her own. This is our thing. So we see that there is this kind of like jealousy / struggle between Max and Susie. And so Jenny and Susie did indeed jump off of that precipice. Jenny did indeed hit her head. However, Jenny kind of wakes up in the middle of this and she sees that there is someone standing over Susie and is strangling Susie and trying to drown her. We come to present day after this revelation, and this girl, Jenny, finally realizes that the girl standing in front of her is not Susie, but Max. And Max is not a boy, Max is a girl. And so apparently Max was Jenny's girlfriend or something like that. And so Max and Susie clearly were jealous of each other, and this is the result. So apparently Max is the one who drowned Susie. And we also find out more about Max. She was actually a runaway. She was running away from her stepfather, and she's the one who murdered Susie. And the whole entire reason why she even disappeared is because she just didn't want her stepfather to find her. But it just begs the question. It's like, you were that jealous that you had to murder something. It's someone like, you could have just disappeared. You literally could have just disappeared, because at the end of it all, you still left Jenny there. So you left Jenny there, you disappeared, and you murdered her best friend. Make it make sense. So anyways, she took this opportunity, which I guess you could say this was her plan, maybe. She stole Susie's identity. I'm guessing this wasn't the plan, and I'm guessing that she just came up with this when she ran away, because unless she already knew that they were planning to jump off this precipice, she wouldn't have known that Jenny would hit her head. She wouldn't have known any of that. And so I'm guessing that when she ran away, she decided, oh, let me steal Susie's identity. And thus the cult was formed. We get no information of how the cult was formed, by the way. However, Susie / Agnes, who, if you recall, that's what she goes by, like Agnes as like the cult leader name. She is actually dying from ovarian cancer. When I say Susie / Agnes, that's also Max is dying from ovarian cancer. And apparently the reason that she reached out to Jenny is because she thinks Jenny would be a great candidate to take over the cult from her when she passes away from cancer. So interestingly enough, actual Susie did have cancer, and now Max has cancer. But Susie didn't die of cancer. She died because Max drowned her. Now Max has cancer. Karma? Maybe. We also learned that she doesn't believe that Susie even deserved Jenny as a friend. She believed that Susie was just taking advantage of Jenny, and that Susie was very manipulative. But so are you, Max. So are you. And the reason that nobody found Susie's body is because the river just simply took her body and washed it away. Like, her body just washed away with the river, and it was just never found. Never turned up anywhere, which I could believe, because there are dozens of people's bodies who are just never found or who have disappeared, and we could only assume that maybe something like that has happened to them. The diary. So Jenny actually did not give Max / Susie / Agnes the diary. Max actually broke into her house and stole her diary because she didn't want any evidence to be around that Jenny knew Max. And this is after Max found out that Jenny's memories weren't that great. She wasn't remembering, and I'm guessing she took this opportunity to be like, okay, I'm just gonna take the diary since you can't remember me, and there will be no evidence that you even knew me. She even broke into Susie's house and stole the tape recordings, and that's why she was able to play the tape recordings from earlier on in the book, where they talk about you have Jenny and Susie saying, "Dare you, dare me," because she stole those tape recordings. Jenny's not buying this, and she asks Max, "Why did you really take out my best friend?" And Max is like, "I hated her. She was taking advantage of you, and she only liked you because you followed her." And she believes that she did Jenny a favor by taking her out, because otherwise she thinks that Jenny would have just continued following Susie for her entire life and she would have never been her own person. But Jenny doesn't take it this way. She feels as though Max never gave Susie the opportunity to even become a better person. But she also wonders if she was right, if Max is right. If Jenny was still alive, would I still have been following her? And so that's a big question, and I don't think that's necessarily the case, but I do think they they probably would have had a falling out. But Max definitely was wrong for taking her out. Even though Jenny wants to go home, clearly, she still goes back to the compound, one of the cult's properties, with Max, which again, I cannot understand why she constantly goes back to this place. But anyways, she sleeps there, and when she wakes up, she's in the hallway and she thinks that she sees someone she knows, Hannah. But Hannah disappears around the corridor, and when she turns around, she sees Max, and she's like, "Hey, is somebody named Hannah staying here?" And Max denies it. She just denies. She's like, "There's nobody named Hannah here," even though Jenny is like, "You sent Hannah to spy on me." But Max is adamant that there is no Hannah at this compound. Do we believe Max? Absolutely not. They're having a conversation, and Max mentions Jenny's job as a therapist at the call center. And it's at this point that Jenny realizes she did speak to Max on the phone at some point. She in fact had called, telling Jenny of her cancer diagnosis and saying that she was worried about who would take care of her children after she died. And Jenny says, "You weren't worried about your children, you were worried about your cult members." And I just want to put in here that every time that Jenny says that this is a cult, Max is like, "It's not a cult, Jenny, it's not a cult." Well, girl, clearly it's a cult, stop. And because Jenny is calling her out, Max suddenly changes her mind in believing that Jenny would be a great successor, to saying, "I don't think that you have what it takes to be the next cult leader after I pass away." And obviously, she's only saying that because she doesn't think that Jenny even wants to do it at this point, and she's clearly offended. On her way home, Jenny decides that she's going to look for Max on Instagram, and she finds Max, and Max only really has a handful of followers, and Jenny deduces that this means that there is only a handful of people who know who she really is, but the most of the world, or most of the people that know her, have no idea who she is. They think that she is Susie. And so she adds her onto her Instagram account, and Max surprisingly adds her back fairly quickly, like as if she was looking on her phone waiting for something to happen. And that is pretty much where we end chapter 70. And the next video will be about the last chapter, so chapter 70 through 83, and include my honest thoughts about the book as a whole. So yeah, guys, if you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up. Comment down below your thoughts on the content of this book and what has happened in this recent portion. And if you read this book, tell me what you thought about it when you were reading it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Bye, guys.